Just a quick welcome to Tim Drummond. This is PT Distinction Interview, and he is, I would say, an expert in selling high-end online programs. He sells programs, I believe, Tim, at about 2,000 to 2,500 for 12 weeks. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. And that's in pounds. So our American friends, that's probably $4,000. So. He is selling high-end programs, and he's doing it very, very well online. And Tim's going to talk us through his methods, and we've got a few questions that have come from PT Distinction members to fire at him. So let's get started. First of all, first question I got is how did you get started? I mean, how do you get those initial first few clients?
Cutting out a bit, but was that the first few clients online?
Yeah, first few online clients. Just the first 5 or 6. How'd you get them?
Sure. So I was a PT when I first started out. I started doing a little bit more into the motivational side of stuff, a bit more about the psychology of change. Moved into doing more sort of a coaching-based things. So went and trained to become a life coach, although I don't tell people that, not in the UK anyway. So I'm doing my master's in psychology and behaviour change, and so that was sort of when I really started getting into, or I say it opened the doors a bit more for the online stuff. I went through a stage where I was doing seeing clients one-to-one. My programs went up a lot, and I was doing some really decent packages in person. The issue that I found, partly I'm way more passionate about the coaching side and the motivation side and that side of it than necessarily just training people. But also it's just a business model where if all you're doing is working with these really high-end clients one-to-one, which I was doing, they have lots of expectations, which is cool, by the way, they should do. So, my programs, if I see someone one-to-one, they're like 12,000. So that's for 16 weeks. So you can imagine when you're saying that to someone, they have an expectation that, for starters, you'll come to them. So it's fine, but what it does do is it just means that it limits the amount of time that you can spend doing stuff, because you're travelling around these guys and they're busy and they fly a lot, and they move things about, and they just expect that. And so I sort of got to the point where I realised that for me was not going to get me to where I wanted to get to. I still like doing it, and I still like training people, although I'm now really pretty much stopped, and I will do totally soon. So I sort of looked, like us all, I wanted that sort of dream of making money while you sleep and all of that stuff that we've all read about, and I'm not sure if it works, but I ran a business for about 2 or 3 years with that intention of building something that's scalable and allows me to do that. And that model, which was more of a boot camp model, never really took off. And so I sort of sat back and I was like, look, I need to start to figure out what I can do that I'm good at, and what suits what the results I get to my clients and the feedback I got from them. And so I started realising that actually more and more for instance, in my sessions when I was personal training people, I would start actually having some sessions where we didn't train once. And everyone in my gym would sort of be staring at me like, what the hell am I doing? But what I knew I was doing is I was working with people on the behaviour and the mindset of things. And lots of my clients started getting a lot out of that. And really starting to see some big differences in behaviours, in beliefs, in outcomes of weight loss. That's what I do. And so I just started getting really fascinated by that. And I just sort of, I think I decided that I could do that without seeing someone. I could do it without, the training part was almost just an excuse to have them, some clients by the way, in front of me, to coach them and to do that mindset stuff around why they couldn't do the things that they really wanted to do. So then I just went for it. Like I use Facebook a lot, so I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I just started talking to people, and I was just like, look, and I guess you sort of, my belief is that you can sell stuff before it exists. I think there's a lot of people out there that will go along with that. So I basically just started selling online stuff, and then sort of worked out how it worked along the way. Now, it was cool because my clients were getting great results out of it. So then when I started to realise that it works, like I really started thinking, you know, okay, this is the route I'm going down. Like in science, they suggest that when you do something once, it's an incident. When you do it twice, it's a coincidence. When you do it 3 times, it's a law. So then they'll say that shit works. So for me, when I got to like 3, I was like, this does work. Like people will invest. And okay, at the beginning, it wasn't quite where I am now, but it was still pretty good, and it was still more than you would get as a personal trainer. And I'm sure this is something that we'll touch on later, on how you can do that. And so, yeah, I mean, after the sort of 3rd one, I was like, I really like doing it as well, by the way. And the other big thing I would say is, I was shocked by the results my clients were getting in such a short amount of time with me, because as trainers we've always gone along that line of you know, we see someone 4 times a week, or you know, it's based on, even if you charge monthly, it's based on, oh, my package is monthly but I do this, you know, and we're used to investing 3-4 hours of our time with a client. And so when I got to a point where I was doing, you know, an hour, sometimes maybe 45 minutes, sometimes it's half an hour with a Skype consult, you know, session each week. I was actually starting to really get taken aback by the differences that my clients were getting. Generally, on my experiences, the results, maybe they're not as quick off the bat. So you have to accept that. Right. Maybe they're not doing, but I'm also not asking them to do too much at the beginning, because I think that's the way to do behaviour change. But certainly by the end of the programme, and certainly if I work with them on my second programme, or even if I speak to them 6 months later, they've generally kept those results a lot more than they used to when I was training people. So that was a bit of a surprise as well. Yeah. And yeah, so I guess then I got to sort of 5 and I realised this is what I want to do.
Nice. So basically you pick up the first few by conversations on Facebook, really?
I don't, I buy into the school of marketing that simple things work well. Like sometimes we overcomplicate things, and that's certainly what I've done in the past. You know, I think if you understand a lot of the stuff that I've learned around, you know, it is sales. Like what I would say, the first thing to understand is that when I say sales, I mean it's a win-win situation. So the stuff that I've learned about the art of persuasion and the art of influence, you've got like a line that goes there. One side of it is a win-win. So when I work with my clients, I know that when I persuade them to come into my program or influence them perhaps, it's a win-win. They are going to get great results. So I'm happy with that. If I was selling them a cut and shut second-hand car, like that's manipulation, because it's not a win-win. It's a win-win. It's a win for me because I'm happy days and they've invested in my stuff, but it's a loss for them. So as long as we can accept that, we're always at that win-win. I'm 100% about understanding how to influence people in the easiest and simplest way. And so I sort of learned a lot from some good guys and really invested my time in. I'm fascinated by this, by the way.
Right.
And so I think if you start to learn some of that, you can have conversations with people. You can start conversations with people in the right way, from Facebook, from anywhere, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know anything about pickup. I'll give you the best example possible. Pickup is like, you've read the game, or, you know, there are people that teach, you know, guys how to go and chat with them in the street. And if that was me, I'm fucking miserable at it. Luckily I've got a girlfriend now and we're all good. But I'm terrible at shit like that. But you see people that are just effortless.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, and most of the time with those guys, they just do it naturally. But also there are those guys, and I know some of them, by the way, who have actually invested their time into learning how to be good at it. So they, with ease, will go up to someone in a bar and start talking to them, and they know how to do it, because in pickup they would say that there's predictable outcomes from certain behaviours, and certain behaviours that you do and then see back. So I sort of, you know, that's what I would say I learned a lot about it at the beginning. How to start a conversation with someone, whether it's Facebook, whether it's email, or whatever it is, that's not screaming, I'm trying to sell you shit. Because if you do that, subconsciously we will switch it straight away, and we can't help it. You work in London, right? Let's say you're in Oxford Street,
right,
down there, Baker Street, and you see that dude in front of you and he's got a clipboard, right? You know what he wants. He wants some money.
I'm running away. I'm crossing the road.
We probably look down and cross the road. The thing is, if you actually rationally think about what's he asking?
chances are he's asking me to subscribe to pay a charity for something, isn't he?
So what's the charity probably going? It could be like for donkeys or shit like that,
Yeah,
but it could
yeah.
be for like kids in the third world starving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and our rational, or certainly not subconscious behaviour, is to cross the road away from that.
Yeah,
So
we're
really,
horrible people.
we should be going up to them and saying, listen dude, I was going to go and spend £2-3 in Starbucks today twice.
Yeah.
Instead of me doing that, I want to give you £5 to save some child in the third world's life, right? So what we have to understand is none of this is rational. It's
Yeah.
all subconscious and irrational. So when our brain feels like it's being sold to, i.e. we see the dude with the clipboard, we will just shut off. And so the whole idea of how do you get to these conversations with people is you need to understand how to do that. You need to understand how, even if you see those guys, sometimes you see ones that are really good at it, and somehow they just seem to be much more relaxed and their body language is different and they're not all awkward. And they start conversations really easily. And they're the people that are good at that. So what we have to understand is we need to do that same process. We need to have a process in our business where we are that person who just looks relaxed and comfortable, and it's not like buy my shit, because that will turn people off.
Yeah. So have you got any tips for starting that conversation?
Any tips on
starting that conversation? How do you become that man?
for pickup or for
I was thinking sales, but why not pick up as well?
So if you are female and you're listening to this, if anyone ever comes up to you and says, can I just stop you, my best friend, I need some advice off a female because my best friend has this problem, that is, they're trying to pick you up. So you can say to them, I've read the game as well, because they'll be surprised.
You've ruined a lot of men's lives there.
What's that?
You've ruined a lot of men's lives there.
No, listen, as I say, I'm atrocious at this, that's probably why I'm slightly jealous. I think that you want to have a conversation with someone. It's like how you would just normally talk to. So, you know, maybe not on the pickup, but if you're in a bar or you're out or you're on holiday or it's just talking to people.
Yeah.
So you're not going in there with the intention of, I want to sell you shit. You know, you could go in there with the intention of saying, I'm interested in what you're up to. Because what I would generally do is, there's a reason why I'm having a conversation with that person. It's not just a random, anyone on Facebook, let me talk to you. But I've sort of realised that either there's been so again, if we go back to the pickup thing, we would look for something called an indication of interest. So if you went up to a girl in the street and you wouldn't give her your name, for instance, and the reason you wouldn't give her your name is because when she asks your name, she's showing interest in you. It's a predictable outcome of human behaviour. So when someone shows interest in you, they'll do it if they don't know your name by asking your name. And so you purposely withdraw that information. You don't give it to BD because it would lose that opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right.
And so you're getting an indication that that person is interested in some way. So, for instance, maybe someone's written something on their wall about training or fitness or eating, or maybe you keep an eye on people, you know who they are. Maybe they've said something. Maybe you like a comment. Maybe you add a comment in. Whatever it is, it's not just a cold approach to anyone, go and buy my shit.
Yeah.
It's like they're interested in this stuff because they care about it, and because they've talked about it. So then you just start a conversation. It's very much about just first of all being friendly, but also not thinking how can I sell to this, how can I sell to this, how could I serve this person, for instance.
Yeah, that's nice.
How can I offer them some of the value that I have? Because if we can go into that, and that's not only at that point, it's the whole way through to whether we decide we want them as clients or not at the end. We're there to serve them, not to sell them shit. Now, we're also in a business, and we do want to help our clients, because if they don't work with us, they're basically going to stay where they are. That's the thing. So we're in there for service, for bringing something to the world, to, why most of us are in the industry, because we like helping people, we get a good feeling ourselves, and they love getting our help. So they're the main ways. Start a conversation, but don't be so obvious about it.
Yeah, it sounds good. So start a conversation and then serve them, help them out.
And look, I'll give you another example. My main business, even if you've got a small one, it's not about like buy my shit all the time. It's about how can I have a conversation with you? How can I start a conversation? And listen, I'm not going to give away all my secrets, but one of the emails that I sent out not long ago was, when's your birthday? Like, that's got nothing to do with anything to do with buy my shit, right?
Yeah.
But it got a lot of people replying to me. So then I'm in a conversation with someone. Where that conversation goes, maybe I'm just chatting to them.
Yeah.
You know, that's cool. Maybe you end up talking about fitness, maybe we don't. Either way, I'm not too fast. I've got to say hey to someone on my mailing list. So it doesn't always need to be just like, you know, how fat are you? Do you want to lose some weight? That sort of stuff.
I like it. Yeah, sounds good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, the non-selling selling.
100%.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's great. Right, let's move on from there. This sort of slightly goes along with that question, but probably moves a little bit away from it. When you're marketing to online clients, do you have, you know, opt-ins? Do you have follow-up email sequences, or, you know, is your aim to get them on the phone, or what is your aim when marketing to someone, and how do you do that online?
Sure. The answer is yes to all of those.
Right.
Like, this is, look, I get asked this a lot, and this is what people think. They're like, how do you get in front of someone? So when I took my last client that I'm working with, this was simply a referral. Okay, so I know how to ask for referrals in the right way, and I know how to make that feel comfortable for everyone. But I bowled up, and I'm going into Bulgari Hotel in Knightsbridge, like suited up. You know, I'm going in there and having a conversation with this guy. You know, 20-minute conversation. Okay, I'd spoken to him on the phone very quickly. You know, I'm going in there. I don't know whether I want to work with him. I don't know whether I can help him or not. But if we get to the point where I am, and I do feel like I can help him, then, you know, I'm going in there and I'm asking this dude for 12 grand. So what we have to understand is people are like, how do you get in front of that person? And that's what they think always the issue is. How do you get in front of that guy? But the thing is, what we need to understand, it's a bit like if all we ever wanted to do was get in front of Bill Gates, for instance, because we've got this software program that's amazing. We just need to get in front of him. Then one day the dude gets in a lift with you, Bill Gates, and you're like, fuck, now I don't know what to say. And what do I do? How do I pitch my shit to him? How do I know he's even interested? Because I think if you ask Bill Gates, he probably gets pitched probably 20 times. Gary Vaynerchuk, who I listen to a lot, he said on video, he gets pitched like 100 times a day.
Oh,
do you think he has a radar of bullshit to say that he's not? So wealthy people, or certainly people that are more wealthy, have this because they do get sold to a lot more. So the issue is not necessarily just about how do we get in front of those people, it's what do we do when we get there as well.
Yeah.
So we need to understand both of those parts. You know, the reason I love online, by the way, is because if we accept that, while I believe that if someone is in enough pain, as in they want their problems sorted enough, and this is good because we're going to help them do it, and there's urgency enough for them to want to get it done now, and we do everything right, we still need to accept that if we're going to charge that sort of money, they need to be a certain type of person. You know, it's not that you can't, but on the whole.
Yeah.
With the online stuff, like, I know that my programs will appeal to people who aren't that super wealthy. So, you know, you need to get in front of the right people. The process needs to have been right and smooth. And then you need to know to do when you get there. So autoresponders are 100% a good place to start, because, like, I've got a client, first time I started using Facebook for businessy stuff, and I was working with a coach, obviously, and that was one of the first things he got me to do. And I got a client that came, I had a conversation with her, I spoke to her on Skype, and she invested 6k with me up front.
Nice.
That's from her liking a post of mine on Facebook. So it's not to say that can't be the way of doing it.
Yeah.
It can. But what we need to understand, even with funnels, even with all of this stuff, the first part is just that tiny little interaction and how that works. So it could work on Facebook, but it could work on you giving downloads, you giving freebies. That's 100% what I would be doing. If you don't have it, then you should be. But don't rely on the fact that you think if you're going to grab 100 emails or 500 emails, and then you don't know what to do at the other end, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
You may do, but you're not going to get where you might want to get.
Yeah. I mean, is your end goal with someone you meet online to try and get them on Skype or get them on a phone call? Is that where you would try to get them, or?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends what your model is, I guess.
Yeah.
For me, my model is, and there's reasons for it as well. It's very, very high price.
Yeah.
And I do that because I want to, for starters, but also because I think I'm a big believer in client selection. Like, my whole process of having someone initially talking to them, and if I do decide I want to work with them, like, I'm only going to end up making offers to people that I think I can help and I think my stuff. So we need to understand that at all points of that process, we're the ones that decide whether there's a fit, whether we feel we're right for them. But when we do make that offer, if the person is, which they often are, by the way, they're quite taken aback because they're not sure what it is going to be, the investment.
Yeah.
But the people that say, yeah, let's do it, they mean it. Like, they really do mean it, and they want your stuff, and they get great results from it, really great results. And so I wouldn't say my intention is always to get them on the phone, because I think if you go in there with an intention of, I want to get them on the phone because I want to sell them.
Yeah, it comes through, doesn't it?
I think it comes through, and so the best analogy I could give you would, one of my clients I worked with, she was a model, and she struggled at the beginning with that idea of going in and getting rejected, of course, and it was pretty brutal, by the way.
Yeah.
We don't need to understand experts in evolutionary psychology to understand why we're fearful of being told, yeah, you're a bit fat, love, when you're size 8. Like, that's not. But what we ended up getting to her, she got to a point where she was like I would call it unattached to the outcome. So she would go in there, she wanted the job, like she really did, but it didn't. She wasn't going to walk out at the end and go, oh, I've done something wrong. She knew if she had enough of those and did everything that she could do to become the best model, she would be okay.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'd say with clients of where we are, we're unattached to the outcome with these guys.
Nice.
But we do want to help them, we do.
Yeah.
And so it's not that we don't care, but we. So if we take that attitude into it, there is an intent, if it's the right person, to have a telephone conversation with them. 100%. For me, even the best copywriting genius master will find it hard to get someone on board at a certain price point or above a certain price point unless you have a conversation with the person.
Yeah, cool. Right, let's get a little bit into your sort of training and training plans.
Just cut off a little.
Sorry, I'm breaking up again. Am I back?
Yeah, you are.
Good. Training plans wise, what sort of things do you include in your plans? I know you like to cut them back and make them simple, but surprise a few people. What do you have in the plans?
I'm going to surprise I think. Again, it's like one of the things that people say to me all the time. It's like, yeah, but I need to know all the shit to put in. How do I create value?
Yeah.
Like, it's this inbuilt thing for us, or maybe it's like we're not good. I don't know what it is, but I was there and I'm like, what else can I put in this stuff? So I used to have a welcome pack for clients, right?
Right.
And it had about 100 pages in it. Now I'm sitting back going, what is that?
I bet they hated that.
Well, no, at the time I thought I was a genius, right? I thought I was the best man in the gym. Of course they fucking did. They're like, dude. And like, what I've realised is, one of the guys I worked with, he ran a hedge fund. He was, his time is valuable. Like, way more than, way more than a week of what I could earn is like an hour of his, even if that, right? He doesn't want a million things, he just wants two. Like, he wants me to be able to use all of my knowledge, tell him the two things that he needs to do to get the biggest result. So, like, there's a quote I love, and it says, the only simplicity to be trusted is the other side of complexity. And I think if you look at that, it's like, I saw this video on YouTube, and it was just one of those dudes who'd been in prison for 40 years, and some solicitor or lawyer stood up and said like 2-3 sentences, and the judge was like, yeah, 3. free him, and everyone was going all crazy and everyone's all upset. And you could look at what that solicitor has done by saying 2-3 sentences, and you could think, that's pretty simple, I could do that shit. But actually what we then could step back and say, he's only in that position because he's done 30 years in law school and all of this case law, and he knows all of this shit, but he knows what he really needs to bring to the table at that point. So that sort of sums up what my opinion is. We do know all this stuff, but our clients can't deal with it.
Yeah.
They can't handle it because it's too much. They just want to be told simple stuff. So my guy, and again, this depends on avatar, which you need to understand. That depends on niche, which you should be doing. So if you have a niche and you understand your avatar, you start to know what are the things that these people want. I work with brides a lot. I know the shit that they do, they need, they're fearful of. I know how to motivate them. I know the 2 things that I do week 1. Generally, that can change, of course. I know some of the visualization stuff, some of the NLP stuff we do a little bit down the line. Like, it's not hard to get these people if you understand who they are.
Yeah.
So, as far as training plans go, I don't want to train somebody who wants to get on stage, for instance. Like, I'm not interested in that. There's too much work. They need more input than me. I'd be the first to tell them this, by the way. Go and see someone who's an expert. Like, my clients are a certain person. They want a certain thing.
Yeah.
If someone comes to me week 1 and I'm saying, tell me what you've been doing in the gym for the last 6 months, and they say, I haven't been. Like, the last thing I want to do is give them a training program. It's go to the fucking gym. Like, go to the gym, because why do you think you're in this situation? So all we need to do is move people closer to where they want to, where we would want them to get to, and where they would want to get to as well.
Yeah.
So, I do give training programs, but not to the depth that some people will. There's other things that I'm more fussed about. Like, I'm not going to start giving percentages and stuff. Like, these aren't professional athletes.
Yeah.
Them going and having 2-3 extra beers on a Friday night because they're stressed from the week, probably going to have as much difference to that. So maybe I'll help them with that first, not get too tied up with the details.
So you basically focus on 1 to 2 things at a time and get them to work on that, and then move on to the next thing, yeah?
100%. One of my questions at the beginning is, if we were to change 2 or 3 things each week, you'd see that, how many, and I ask a lot of questions, it'd be like, how many things overall is that? And they'll be like, 30 or 36. I'm like, cool, do you think if we change 36 things that you're doing, you're going to get somewhere? And they always say yes. I'm like, cool, so let's just start with 2 or 3. So what we don't want to do is start trying to change 100 things, because clients can't follow it. They're not us. Like, we have to understand it. Our clients aren't eating chicken and broccoli for breakfast. Certainly not week 1 anyway. They might do later on, but certainly not week 1. Like, look at someone's. I had a chat with one of my mentees, and he's been approached by a guy who's about 25 stone. And he's like, well, what would you suggest I do? And I'm like, well, look, the dude's 25 stone. Let's be clear. He must be doing loads of shit wrong because he's got to that point. Like, tell him to stop eating 10 donuts a day. Like, at least get him only to eat 5. Even that would probably make a difference with someone like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's about client selection. It's about where our clients are. It's about not being trainers and bringing our own perspective to it. It's about where normal people are.
Yeah. That sounds good. It's very interesting. So how would you deliver that? Do you speak to them on the phone regularly, or do you send them stuff online? What's the delivery for each thing, or does it change for everything?
It does change.
Yeah.
It depends, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it just depends. It depends on what works with them, what they feel comfortable with. Like, if we go back to the idea that our clients want things that work quickly. They don't want to spend, like, we might think we're the most charismatic, buff people in the world. Our clients don't really want to spend 4 hours with us in the gym, let's just be honest. Like, they prefer to be hanging out with their friends or with their family or doing other shit. So, almost, we're doing them a favour if we can give them as little of our time as possible, because they want to be doing other stuff.
Yeah.
So, one of the things people do is they get tied into a belief that I need to give you more. I need to be there for you. I hear this a lot. I'll be there 24/7 for you.
Yeah.
Bullshit. No, don't be there, because you're not doing them any favours. Because what you're doing is you're teaching them to be needy bastards. How about you withdraw yourself and make the boundaries clear here, sitting here, you know, doing all this shit. Because that's when you transformations, you teach people new beliefs, behaviours. They can then go and do it themselves. Almost the reason why I think online stuff work, or you know, certainly what I've been up to, it works so well is because you give them the things to do, and they need to go and work it out.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the fish thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, give a man a fish and yeah.
It's like actually just teach them to not be needy bastards and not sit there and go. Like I got this first of all with my mentor, and I remember it at the time. I got really fucking pissed off because I emailed him and I was like, "Fucking this bloody MailChimp won't work," and he just ignored me. And I was like, "Dude, like, I just spent all this money on and it's bloody expensive, by the way."
Yeah.
And he just ignored me and he carried on doing it. And then about 3 months later, like we were having a conversation, I was like, "You knew that you were doing that, didn't you?" He goes, "Yeah." And I was like, you did that because you knew that I needed to be shown to stop dicking about, like take some action on this.
Yeah.
Like imperfect action, it doesn't need to be perfect, just fucking get it done." And it taught me from that day on that the old me would have just sort of carried on being needy and tried to get someone else's help. Yeah. And now I've just like, just work out myself.
And did you work it out in the end?
That's a behaviour. I did, and it was a ball like pissing me off at the time, but it did me a massive favour.
Yeah.
A massive favour.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to figure out, and I've only just started doing it, by the way. Now, when I'm trying to figure out Facebook ads, like if I hadn't gone through that process of actually working something as simple as MailChimp out, I'd have no fucking chance now. Yeah.
And that brings me to another question quite nicely, actually. What mentors have you used? What coaching courses have you particularly enjoyed to get you to where you are now?
I've invested like $100,000. I've spent a lot of money on this.
Yeah.
Okay? So partly because I just like doing it as well.
That's fair enough.
But one of the problems that I see in the industry is people like doing courses, you know, but sometimes maybe they think it's the answer to be more successful in their business. And I'm not suggesting that we don't do courses. Like I did loads. What I'm saying is, it's not the answer to a problem. If our problem is we don't have enough clients, or we don't have enough money, or we're working stupid hours because the only way we can get enough money is by being in the gym for 14-hour days, or all of these things that we didn't get into the industry for, right? You know, or we don't see our family, or we never go on bloody holiday. All of these things that, you know, I've really moved away from.
Yeah.
We can sometimes think it's going on more courses, learn more shit. So we need to understand that we do need to know our shit. It goes back to what I said at the beginning about win-win. This needs to be a win-win. So if you're a shit trainer, don't be going and asking for loads of money, because actually you're manipulating people. However, if you are a good trainer, there's a level where your goodness will start to get diminishing returns, you would call it.
Yeah.
So you can spend another 5k on another course. You might become 0.2 better. Do your clients, need to be honest, do your clients need it? Or the other option is, are we doing it through avoiding tackling the real problems? And that's what I think, like, is that most of the problems are we don't like selling as coaches or trainers because we don't like rejection. And we're not going to go and ask us the question, is the problem I'm just not making money? And maybe the real problem is because I don't know how to. And again, I think it's really important to say, if we don't learn how to market and sell ethically, someone else down the road will be doing it, probably unethically, and our clients will go to them and end up nowhere. Or they'll sit there miserable, fat, overweight, single, not getting laid, all the things that, you know, we help our clients to sort. They'll just be in that terrible place. So I think that I invested a lot in learning how to be good at what I did, which was cool. Then I started to realise that there's something that's missing. Like, I've always been quite driven, so, you know, I have goals that I want to achieve, and I knew that banging my head against the wall trying to do it myself was never going to get me there, and it just seems dumb as well. So, you know, to think that we can go from wherever we are at 30k a year or struggling at whatever it is, and to think that we can start actually getting to a place where we really, really want to be, or even more than that, and we would never believe we could, when we're very unlikely to do it on our own.
Yeah.
So I did a course called KPI, which was a sort of 9 months mentorship. I got loads out of it. I wrote a book from it. I think personally I took some of the wrong stuff from it, as opposed to there was an issue with the program. I think the program is great. I think I took too much from it, that I spent too much time doing shit that doesn't really matter.
Right.
So I spent a huge amount of money as well on like websites and videos and blogging and writing a book, and this is all cool, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't make us money. So we can do all that. If we don't know how to sell and market, we're never going to get anywhere. So I realised after doing that I needed to understand actually how the psychology of sales, the psychology of influence and persuasion. So then I started learning more about that. A little caveat with it, I would say, is that my opinion is, from the first person I speak to, the first time I speak to someone in any way, even if it's on Facebook, all the way through to them finishing my programs, that's like one process. It's one big coaching process. So I'm helping them at the beginning because they're fearful, because they've failed before, because they sometimes, like people say to me, PTs, they say, one of my big problems is I get people inquiring at my website, but they never turn up for the trial sessions. We need to understand that there's a reason for that, and there's a psychology behind it. So my goal is always to say, I want them to feel comfortable to be able to go through that process, and that's influence. It's the same thing as selling. So I invested, I grew some basically in the end, and I wasn't happy with where I was. Spoke to a guy, and this is what lots of things got me. I said to him on the phone, I was like, dude, like, I've just checked you out, and I can't find anything about you. There's like one half-finished website, and it's got like one page on it. And he's like, yeah, I don't bother with that shit. Like, I need to know how this dude does that. Yeah. How has he got me? It sounds really stupid. How has he got me just about to pay him all this money, and he doesn't even have a fucking website? Like, what is he doing? What's he just done to me up there? But I knew that I wanted to work with him, and like in the end, it was fucking expensive. Transformed transformed not only my business, without getting too carried away, transformed my life. I mean, I'm buying a house this year. I would never have been able to do that last year. So, am I allowed to name drop?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay, he's a guy called Glenn Bridges. Like, try and Google him, but you won't find him. Go on Facebook. He's on my friends list. Phenomenal guy. We're doing some stuff together now as well. So, I think when you realise that if you do have that aspiration, and I was on a webinar the other day, and like everyone's like, how much do you want to earn? People are like, oh, I want to earn 10k a month. I speak to loads of trainers telling me the same thing. Yeah. I'm like, the realistic situation is, if you think you're going to be able to do it on your own, good luck, and I hope you do. But it's a fucking ball ache, and why not just make it a lot easier and quicker? Yeah. And so that was a big change for me. I also did some of the stuff around coaching, like behaviour change. I'm doing my masters, which I also find I needed to learn. I find that fascinating stuff as well. Oh, and one other guy as well who owns an insurance company, and he's an absolute genius at sales. I mean, it's so much fun. Yeah. Like, it's so much fun when you have these conversations with people. Not because you're manipulating them, just because you get stuff out of them that, which is good, by the way, which they feel like they wouldn't normally want to share. So when you coach people, you ask them questions, the right questions, they start sharing with you stuff that they probably wouldn't share with anyone else. That gets results with your clients because they're honest to you and themselves. Yeah. So that's why, like, I've got so involved in it.
Nice. So who's the guy that owns the insurance company?
He's under the radar now.
No, not allowed that one.
He's just a mentor. He just, he doesn't sell shit apart from insurance, and sits over the big house. But he's a good guy. So,
Glenn Bridges didn't have a website, or he had a half-finished website. How did you find him in the first place? How did he get you to want to work with him without a website?
Someone who I know, trust, on Facebook, shared one of his posts. Yeah. And I liked his posts.
And you started a conversation.
The other way round.
He started a conversation. There you go.
Listen, there's a process behind this. So let's be clear. Like, there's an understanding of the psychology of what you need to be able to do from that moment.
Yeah.
Me giving him stupid amounts of money and even more stupid amounts of money, and now even more stupid amounts of money. So there is you do need to understand that but it's simple.
Yeah.
Like it's not complicated, but it's not something that we would just know. And it's probably not stuff that we would learn from, I'm going to be blunt. If we're going to go in and if we want someone to teach us how to make 10, 15, 20k a month, let's not expect to be able to get that by paying someone 50 quid.
Yeah.
But that's just not going to happen, because the people that are doing that, they're good. They know this shit. Like, expect to invest some in it. So, it was really reflective of the first client, the first bigger client I got via Facebook, which I always said, I don't know if you can, blah, blah, blah. And people say to me now, yeah, but those clients aren't on Facebook. Yes, they are on Facebook.
Everyone's on Facebook.
Everyone's on Facebook, right? So that it was literally exactly the same way that I got that client last year for 6K. Same thing, she liked a post of mine that someone else shared. Now, obviously, I understand how to write copy. I understand how to get my stuff shared. I know what I'm doing with that, and I know the process after that. But it can be quite simple as well.
Yeah, very interesting. I think I know where you're going to go with it, but how do you keep people motivated when they're online clients, when you're not actually seeing them, 3 times a week, 4 times a week? How do you keep them motivated? How do you teach them to actually get the results themselves?
Sure. So if you understand motivation, we can sort of split it into two. We can talk about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. I think that a good example is, I saw this video of Steve Redgrave and the rowers, like the dudes like training for whatever Olympics it was. I've never seen we all seen loads of people train, right? I've never seen anything like what they were doing. It was just like, this was just so intense, it's so hardcore. And I always used to think, like, why are they doing that? And the obvious thing is to say they want to win a gold medal, right? Of course. But what I've realised is there's a layer below that. They're driven to want to do that for a reason. It's not because they want to win a gold medal. It's something there, whether it's like, I have these conversations with people a lot, with my clients, with technical clients. Like, this is where we need people to be to understand that they need to make changes. So I've had a conversation with someone before who basically in the end was saying that the reason they wanted to make more money is because they wanted to get acceptance from their dad, who basically ignored them when they were younger. Like, I know that sounds a bit deep.
Yeah.
But this is motivation. This is what we need to understand as coaches. Our clients have these deep intrinsic motivations that they're probably not even aware of necessarily. So we need to be good coaches to help them get them. So if we go at it from a traditional personal training point of view, and this isn't a criticism, by the way. Listen, this is how we're taught, and this is what we learn. We sort of feel like it's about us telling people stuff. Whereas when you start to understand more of a coaching process, really it's about understanding that you ask the right questions. So it's not about telling someone to do something to it. It's asking them the right questions so they discover that motivation that's already inside them. So again, I know it sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it's we need to understand why our clients are doing this, what the difference is that it's going to be for them when they get to where they want to get to. We need to help them see the idea of why. There's a great video called The Power of Why on by Simon Sinek or something on YouTube, so check it out.
Yeah.
And he talks about it in there, and we need to create that sort of like burning desire with our clients that, look, we don't need to be there. So I do a lot of stuff around axiology, with study of values, about some NLP stuff around how I would help my clients get into the right frame of mind for a training session. So if you look at Linford Christie is probably the best. Usain Bolt now, but I think he sort of plays around, but he's still doing it in his head. Yeah. Linford Christie used to just stand there and stare.
Yeah.
He's getting himself in the zone to do shit. So anyone who's good at sales, anyone who's good at talking on stage, they'll have a little thing that they do. So it's called, for me, it's like this, it's getting them in that zone. So I use some stuff called anchoring, and it's a technique that you get people in that right mindset. We do it on the call. Then I get them to do that while they're training. And it's about the psychology of them discovering it themselves. Because when they do, like, almost you don't need to keep telling them. You don't need to. Like, I don't need to be told to want to build my business. Like, I want to do this. I've got reasons why I want to do it, and I know them, and I've looked into them, and I've asked myself the right questions, and I've also had coaches that have helped me do that. Like, I don't need to be told to get up in the morning and start doing shit. So when we can put that into clients, like, seriously, this is I mean, listen, if the guys out there don't, this is all new stuff to them, or they touch the surface a bit. Like, one thing that I would say is, if you're not getting great results offline, taking them online is not the best option.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like, I'm in the gym, I'm not getting anywhere, I'm going to start selling cookie cutter programs for 50 quid and I'm going to lie on a beach. Like, that's not going to happen, right? So if you're not, you need to learn how to become good at that. The transformation stuff, like, I'm a transformation coach. There's a difference between that and a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And it probably goes back to a little bit how I would differentiate myself from a personal trainer. And again, I'm not denigrating them. I just want my clients to know that, or prospects anyway, because there is a difference, by the way. And if you're not good, you should start to become better at this. If your clients aren't getting consistent results, and I mean all of your clients, not just half of them, if you're giving your clients programs and they're not following it, we shouldn't sit there as trainers going, oh, what's the matter with these people? Why the hell aren't they eating chicken and broccoli for breakfast? What's the matter with them? Why are they eating donuts all the time? Like, we have to understand this is their deeply held beliefs, drivers that our clients have. We need to get to that level as coaches. Listen, I'm going to put a shout out. If you're unsure, check out a guy called Lazo Freeman. He runs something called the Body Transformation Academy. They teach people to be phenomenal transformation coaches. And I've done some of this stuff, and it's really, I mean, you know, I've been learning this stuff, but even me, I went on this, it's really eye-opening. So 100% you should check them out as well.
Okay.
So I think if it's a different model.
Yeah.
So it's a different model than training. For me, the clients I work with, because again, if I didn't feel this was right, I would make it clear to them, and I wouldn't have them as clients. If I think someone just needs someone to train them and shout at them, that's cool. I'm not gonna work with them. I'd point them towards a really good trainer. If, however, I feel that, and they feel, by the way, because I've asked them the right questions, that the problem is more built around their motivation, their mindset, their what they would call willpower, this sort of stuff, I know that they're the right clients for me, or potentially. So it's almost like the solution might be wrong. So the problem might be different than they think. So if that's the case, then the solution might be different. So that's what people say to me a lot. They're like, how do you convince people that online is right for them? Well, you don't convince anyone to do anything. You ask them the questions and they come to that conclusion themselves. So it goes back to what I said at the beginning. Like, I've been surprised how much better my results are online, sorry.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to it. Like, you have to create intrinsic motivation, because even as traders, if we're training someone 4 times a week, we're what about the other however many hundreds of hours there are?
Yeah, 176 or whatever it is, isn't it?
Do all the burpees and squats and deadlifts, and if they sit there at the end of the night because they're miserable and they sit there eating donuts all night, like, really, we ain't going to get anywhere. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. I guess, is there a simple take home that you could give without, going off and doing a master's in psychology? Is there a sort of very simple something you could teach to a good trainer, not just someone who's straight out of YMCA school or whatever it is? Someone who's a good trainer, is there something simple they could do to get their clients motivated without having to do a master's in psychology?
Sure. So I'll give you split into 2. If you're serious about this and you want to, and in the end we all want a nice life, I've got things I want to achieve. If people are serious about becoming that type of guy who can do the 10k a month, let's be realistic. If you're not willing to put the work in, then you're not going to get there. Yeah. So don't sit there on your ass and think, what's the easy option to do because I can't bother to go and learn this stuff. Yeah. Like, there's guys out there that can teach you this stuff and you can learn and invest yourself. However, I totally get what you say. It probably goes back to the basics. So what are the basics we need to do? Like, fucking take photos of your clients. Like, if you're doing weight loss, which most of us are, or body composition, take photos of your clients. Don't be a fucking fucking lazy ass and not do it. Take measurements of your clients and make them see the measurements. So Seneca says something like, consciousness of wrongdoing is the first step in salvation. We have to understand what we're doing wrong before we can remedy it. And for instance, get your clients to do a 2-day food diary. Get them to take a photo of everything that they do and send it to you after 2 days. Like straight away, like consciousness of wrongdoing. They're looking at their photos and they're eating donuts for every meal. Like they're not stupid.
Yeah.
So for starters, you need to help them see that. You need to help them see what they're doing wrong. It's quite simple to do. And I don't like the term wrongdoing, by the way. But he's a smarter guy than I am. So they need to know exactly where they are all the time. And so we can shy away from it and we can pretend and we can have little confidence about it and we can not measure meet people, or we can do things like I've heard not that long ago with one of my new clients, her being told she's lost 5% body fat on calipers. Clothes didn't feel any different.
Yeah.
The person's just been lying. So, whatever and I'm not saying that's what people are doing, but let's be honest and see the reality of the situation. We need to help our clients do that. So they need to know exactly where they are all the time. Like, I don't get up and not know what my bank account and my bank balance says for how much I've been earning that month for my business. Like, I know how much I earn all the time. It's in real time. I know how many people I speak to. This we need to know. Like, if we don't, what gets tracked gets, what gets measured gets done, or something like that. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
And so I think, like, the simple stuff, it is simple. Like, before and after photos, if you're not doing them, like, you fucking should be.
Yeah.
For starters, they are good for your business as well. They're good for your clients. Online, I insist on them. We're not going to have a discussion, you have to do them. And everyone does. Measurements are really important. A visual track of where your commitments are with what you're measuring. So I use my own Excel spreadsheet. It's nothing genius, but it fucking works. I think that's probably the main things to keep them. That we've got to understand that, especially if we get those right clients. Again, it's about client selection. If someone's pissing about thinking they're going to pay you 50 quid, they don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
When someone comes on board and says, okay, I'm going to invest 2,500 for you, they mean it. So we're there just to facilitate them.
Nice. Yeah. Right. This is going back to payments, that sort of thing. Firstly, how do you take your payments? And secondly, do you sort of offer payment plans, or do you take it all up front?
I take payments electronically. I think you would be dumb not to. I have certain... I understand the psychology of sales, so I have certain things that I do to ensure that I get commitment when I want it, not when someone else feels like they'll decide to give it to me. And that's not, again, it's not manipulation, by the way. So I'm going to be honest, I ain't going to share it with how I do it, because I've spent a lot of money learning this. But what I would say is, number one thing is you should be taking electronic payments. Yeah. If you're not, you're dumb. If you're not going to get anywhere. Listen, one of the reasons why we can be blunt that people don't do it is because they want to scam the tax man. All good. Wait until you start to buy a house like I did and try to do that. Yeah. You're not going to get anywhere if you put half of your money under your mattress. So if you want to be a proper businessman, act like a proper businessman. You need to also, if you also at any point decide you want to, if that's your aspiration, to sell your business, if you siphon half of it off into pissing it up the wall, like, you're not going to get anywhere because your business is not going to worth anything. Also, the big point is, we need to understand the psychology of sales and where people are and where they make decisions from. So everything needs to be done electronically. Really, if you want to get them to commit as soon as possible. Right.
And how do you get them to commit as soon as possible? I mean, we spoke before. You use Stripe, don't you?
I use Stripe as a payment system. Yeah, I'm happy to say that. But again, I'm using things I've learned to make people feel comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, so basically make the payment as easy as possible. Make them comfortable.
Make them comfortable. What we have to understand, right, is going back to what we said, the analogy earlier about, avoiding the people that want to save starving kids' lives, right? We are pre-programmed to say no to sales because because we've been told all of our lives, we've been people selling us shit. As soon as we feel sales, and I mean feel, the word feel is important, we switch off. And we do more than switch off, we're repelled from it. And a feeling is, do you know what the difference between a feeling and an emotion is?
Yes, but I'm not sure I could put it into words.
Sure. So there is a definition. A feeling is an unlabelled emotion. So some people say we buy on emotions, which I think we sometimes do. I personally think that actually we buy on feelings because we don't know what it is. We just know, we feel. So people, they don't go, oh, I didn't emotion right. They'll be like, oh, I felt sad, so I didn't feel right. They'd be like, oh, yeah, I just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
Don't know, or it did feel right. So we need to understand that it's about not only creating a feeling, a positive feeling, it's about not hitting a negative feeling. So again, people, they don't know what that negative is. They just feel something that's not. And this is our brain just saying, don't do this shit. So if we accept that we start with a no, and as coaches and good coaches, because we want to help transform our clients, because that's what we do, we almost have to, it's our responsibility to help our clients not stay where they are. So we have to accept that they will default to no if we allow them, or if we do dumbass stuff which makes them feel like, this guy's selling to me, I'm going to walk away.
Okay, yeah. Sort of on that subject-ish, when you started out, were your prices high, or did you start with them slightly lower? And if so, how did that work for you?
I went into Fitness First in Shepherd's Bush about 2 weeks after I qualified from Premier.
Yeah.
And I was quite proud. I'm going to sound a bit boastful, but fuck it, fine. The first client I took on, we had what was called, I don't know what they used to call them. You gave them 2 free sessions.
Yeah.
And I was a bit cocky, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to try and... I didn't know the word close, but that's what I was doing. I'm going to try and get him as a client straight away. I got him as a client after the first session, and I managed to persuade him, and it probably was at the time telling him, I wouldn't do it now, but that he needs to come on board for 3 sessions, 3 sessions a week.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was like, fuck. Like, you know, okay, I used to be a trader, but going from a job that you do that you dislike,
yeah,
to a job that you do because you love doing it, and then starting to be paid okay-ish money,
yeah,
I was like, fucking hell, dude's give me fucking quid. Like, so even at that time, I was like, okay, I want to slightly push where I can go with this. I think it's a positioning tool, personally. I think as long as you can back it up, if you're more expensive than other people, the perception is that you're better.
yeah.
And again, if you're not, then that's your choice morally whether you want to do that or not. I always felt I was good, so I was okay with it. I went to another gym in the city. I was always charging a little bit more, but nothing crazy more than anyone else. I was a bit smart with it, doing monthlies and stuff.
Yeah.
Big step up for me was just to ask for the money once. Like, that's literally the only thing that I did that was different. Okay, I got to someone in a hairdresser's, which I know is the stuff PT 101 tells us, but it did work.
Yeah.
And she said, look, I worked with her a little bit, and she's like, look, this guy comes in, he wants to work with you. It's like, cool. You know, I knew I knew the value was in his perception of investments, and so I think the most I charged was about $1,000 a month at that point.
Yeah.
I just asked him for 12k, and he said yes. And I was like, okay, you know, that's fine, that's cool, because I think again what we tend to do as normal people, we place a perception on an outcome that we have for it.
Yeah.
So we have a perception of, you know, if I do this, this is worth this much, and that's cool, that's normal.
Yeah.
But when we see other people, there's perception of what they consider money or the value of what something is that's on offer. They don't have that same perception. So as long as they believe you're the right person to help them, they don't care. They don't want to be taken a piss out of. That's something I've learned. They don't want people to think they're being taken advantage of. But they don't really care about money in in a sense. It's a more don't take the piss out of me.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to. Yeah.
Sounds good, actually. Yeah, it's certainly seems to work. Have to do.
I'm going to go back to it. This is genuine. When you get someone to say yes to you, or you don't get them to, but when they decide you're right for them, when you have a bigger investment from them, it changes their behaviours. Like I know from personal, like I said to you about investing in my first coach. I remember day 2, and this was something that I was paying £100 a day for, by the way. So that's £5,000 for 2 months. So it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
And I had this thought in my head. I was like, oh, fuck, I'll do it tomorrow. That's a thought I've had in my head probably for most of my life. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow, right? And then I caught that thought and I was like, dude, if you don't send this email today, for starters, you might not even send it tomorrow because you know what you like. You might do it the next day. Yeah. But even if you did do it tomorrow, almost that's costed you £100. That it's taken a little bit more time out of your 2 months that you've got working to do that you've invested all that money in. So from that day on, I said to myself, if I don't do something and I said I'm going to do it, it's costing me £100. So I got that loss thing, and it did change my behaviours massively. And so what we look at is when our clients come on board at that sort of investment, will from day one change their attitudes. So, and in a good way for them. Now, if they're not there and they're happy to not get our stuff, then that's cool as well. I'm cool. Like, if you say it's not right for you, brilliant, cool. Then that's fine. But I think it is important to understand it's not that we're just trying to take the piss and manipulate people.
Yeah. So nearly there, nearly done. When you train people online, is it completely individualized for every single person, or do you have a sort of some set things that you give to everybody and a bit more one size fits all for your niche?
So the last part is quite pertinent. If you have a niche, then you understand that they're more likely to be like each other.
Yeah.
So when I work with brides, I know the things that they want to work on. I know their pain points. I know their worries and struggles, and I know the things that they're going to be worried about. So it certainly makes that situation easier. Plus, you become better as a coach. Like one of my guys says about that you should have a PhD in your clients' problems. Like if you've got 20 different clients that are 20 different people, there's no way you can do that. Whereas if you have the clients that are similar, you become very good at understanding how to motivate those people, what their problems are, all the struggles they're going to go through. So when you niche, it makes that a lot easier. If you understand an idea of a coaching approach, for starters, you don't need to know the answers all the time, which is a big thing that I got from when I first started my postgrad study. As trainers, we think we need to know everything, but as a coach, you understand you don't need to. You don't need to know the answer all the time. So you need to be able to ask the right questions, and that's a big part of it. So almost, you can't know what you're going to do in that program because you don't know what the problems are yet. So if you have an expectation that you can serve your clients in the best way and already know, I'm going to do this week 1, this week 2, this week 3, this week 4, you don't know. What happens if your clients can't do that week for some reason? Or something pops up that they're like, you know what? Because clients often, when you coach them, they start to get a realisation of what the real problems are. Because we don't like to admit the real problems. Our brains are very good at pretending this other shit that goes on. And when we have to start to reflect on ourselves and say, hang on a minute, maybe it's something, maybe I need to do this. We can always blame other things. It's my metabolism. Really? So, it's hard to have a cookie cutter program, but what you can have is you can have some sort of structure around the type of coaching tools that I use, the type of motivation tools that I use, the stages that I get people to move their eating forward. I have some go-tos. Yeah. Again, I've sort of learned enough now that I've had enough clients doing this that if I see their food diet, I get an idea of feeling of who they are, maybe their attitudes towards food. Like if I'm seeing loads of so-called health food, like I know that they give a shit, but they're missing form.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just see like donuts, cakes, or what was I saw the other day? Cookies and milk at 3 in the morning. I'm like,
Oh.
this person has a slightly different attitude.
Yeah.
And so we don't know exactly the path we're going to take them, but we should have a structure,
Yeah.
both for them and for us, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
Because people do need structures, or that's one of the things they need from us as coaches. They need people definitely need certainty. That's one thing they need.
Yeah, it sounds good. So it's a little mix, really. Final one. You talk about your niche. How did you find your particular niche? And I mean, it's quite interesting. You're a man who works with brides. I mean, how did that come about?
I think you should choose niches for 2 reasons. I think one of them should be that you want to do it and you enjoy working with that type of client. I think the other one should be that it's financially viable to hit where you want to hit.
Yeah.
So I think we need to. It's up to whoever's listening to decide where are they as a percentage of those.
Yeah.
So for instance, listen, I was brought up as in a single parent family, like in a council house. Like, so let's be clear about that. I'm not being classist or anything, but do I want my niche to be single mums? Well, if that's what I really want to do to the world or bring to the world, then happy days, and that's cool. Is it going to be financially viable for you to have a business and to do the shit that you want to do? And I don't know. If you decide that the best niche you could possibly do would be, say, working with guys who are in sales and are fucked and fat and overweight and don't make the money they could be because they're unhealthy, you could say that is about a return on investment.
Yeah.
Because you can see there's a clear return on investment for them. But is that something that you necessarily want to do? Are you passionate about that? So for me, it's about those two. Like, it wasn't a little bit driven by finances, as in I knew that it was a lucrative niche.
Yeah.
I knew some of the... I knew that it would allow me to network a lot easier and to get joint ventures going, which is something I do a lot. I knew it's much easier to get conversations started with people. For instance, when I'm out and about and people ask me what I do, and when I tell them that, there's a different reaction than if I say I'm a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Because when I'm a personal trainer, the answer you get is, oh, that's nice, or you don't get an answer, basically.
So what do you tell them you do? What's your answer to that one?
I work with brides and I help them lose 2 dress sizes in 12 weeks.
Yeah.
It depends where I am, by the way, and who I'm speaking to as well.
Yeah.
So, but that people are like, oh, what they generally say to me is, oh, that's interesting, but meaning it, not, oh, that's interesting. Or they say, oh, you should meet so-and-so, she's getting married. That happens so much.
Yeah.
Especially if the people are in the room, by the way. So that's cool. So, I would have, for me, that was where I went to. I've got a different niche as well, which I'm working with people now from my past of what I used to do.
Right.
And it's probably something that's more, listen, I love doing the bride stuff. What I found out when I did it is these guys are actually really ready to make some big changes in their life.
Yeah.
Because actually, as a woman, there's a lot of thoughts about what's going to happen with the rest of their lives. Because for starters, they're about to get married and probably going to have kids.
Yeah.
It's a big step change in their life. And actually, they're really open to a coaching approach and making stuff, really making things happen, which I love doing. It is really transformational. At the moment, I'm doing, and I don't care if some, say people can try and copy it. I used to be a trader, and that's something that I'm working on at the moment. So is working with traders, because I know the stuff I can bring to the table around the mindset stuff and being optimal and being healthy. Again, there's a return on investment on that as well.
Yeah.
So, people out there, I would say that it's a combination of the two. If you want to do it for free or work for peanuts, then that's cool. If you don't, then you need to choose a niche that actually makes some money.
Yeah.
But you need to give a shit about it.
Yeah. Nice. Perfect.
Do you agree?
I do actually. I think it's a very simple way of doing it. I think people go perhaps make it too difficult for themselves to actually find a niche, but 2 simple tricks and it works a treat.
I think so, and I've started that to be the big takeout though.
Yeah.
You do need to find a niche.
Yeah.
Like, you really do. Don't think that you won't get other people I get people wanting to work with me. and they're still like, I just want to work with you. And as long as they fit my criteria, then I'll consider it.
Yeah.
But we do, like my niche with my guys that I mentor, I help fit pros.
Right.
I help them with their online stuff. Like, I'm not there, for instance, if you're not a good trainer and you say, I want you to help me get as a better trainer offline, I'll be like I said earlier, I'm not the right guy for you. Go and see my guy Lazo.
Yeah.
But I help people at that point. So I think that it gives a really good message, because what you want when you talk to someone, not only in your actual face-to-face communications, but anything you do around copy, you need to talk to that person. You need to be very specific about who that person is. So, you know, if you understand their pain points, there are specific pain points for brides that I know. If I put that in an email, people read it and they're like, that's me. That's what you want someone to react like. So if you just talk as general stuff, you're never ever going to be able to talk to someone specifically. So another big thing why online is so amazing is because you don't have to worry about the fact that, oh, well, maybe there's not enough brides in my little area.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. There's you work with anyone anywhere in the world. So you can create a micro niche even more online. You could work with anyone you decide to work with. There are those guys out there. Like, there'll be lots of them, and it's much easier for you to target them as well when you become an expert.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point actually with the online. It's as you say, you're not limited by your location, so your niche can be quite tight. And also, I think the other thing is, if you are, let's say, a weight loss coach, general weight loss, every other online trainer is going to be a weight loss coach, and you've got an awful lot of competition. It's quite hard to stand out in that market.
And yeah, I mean, again, I'll go back to, like, I do get other people that want my help. Let's not shy away from that, and I'll consider it. But if someone's reading your stuff and one of them's saying, I help people lose weight, and then someone else is saying, I help women lose weight, but then someone else is saying, I help 30 women in their 30s who are stressed out, busy executives who feel this, and this. Which one do you think they're going to choose? If they're that person, by the way.
Yeah.
They are. If all else is equal, they're going to choose the one that makes you think like, oh, I get it. I get told all the time by people and I ask them, why do you want my help when I'm having a call with them? And they'll tell me, so I'll know why they've come to me, and they'll be like, oh, I read that, and that sounded like I really related to it, or I saw that, and that's what I want. So it's really strong. Yeah,
great. Chance to have a little pitch. You mentioned that you help trainers, you help them sort of set up their own stuff. Where can people go to find out a little bit more about you and about that?
Cool. So listen, as I said, like, you know, I am quite specific with who I work with.
Yeah.
Like my guys they are doing the sort of 3,000-4,000 mark. They're the guys that want to put another sort of 3 or 4, and then, you know, move up to 10K a month. So, you know, if that's not you, if you're not doing that sort of 3 or 4, then there's a lot of other guys out there that are probably going to be much better for you. And, you know, I'd be the first if you shout me, and I'll talk about how. I'll be the first to point you in the right direction to some good guys that do that. So if it is something that people want, and it's the online aspect of it, which is what I do. So again, I'm not going to help someone build their offline stuff necessarily, because I think actually it's not what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So they can get me on Facebook, basically.
Okay.
Love Facebook. Like, the only rule I have is if you add me on Facebook, like, fucking say something. Don't just add me and then not say anything. Because if you don't, I'm going to say something to you anyway. So they can add me on what is it? Facebook. And I mean my personal contact, by the way.
Yeah. So what? Just Tim Drummond on Facebook, and
yeah, it's /TimDrummond.com.
Nice.
So Facebook.com /TimDrummond.com. Yeah, that's the only place you're gonna. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
And then you'll have a conversation.
Look, listen, like, you know, like, if someone feels they want my help, then I'll decide whether they're the right people. But, like, you know, if they don't, we can just hang out. And, you know, one of the things that I say to people, and genuinely, Like, you know, I get a lot of my clients off Facebook. So
Yeah.
even if you add me and you've got no interest in getting my shit, that's fine. But you'll probably see some stuff which I do, which you might find useful.
Yeah, it's very good.
You'll see, because you'll see it in your feed, and you'll see the reaction I get from people, and you can start to see. It's a big thing that I do with my guys is I don't just want to give them an email and say just put that out to your list, because actually what they're not understanding is the thought process behind it. So when you start to understand a thought process behind it, you can start replicating it in your own style. So, you know, I know some of the guys out there who, for instance, they have specific emails which they give their people, so Fit Pros guys. The problem becomes, what happens if you and your two mates are in the same area and you're following that guy's emails and you cut and paste it and your potential client gets the same email from 3 people? That does not look good.
No, it
or
doesn't.
Or you'll put the same shit out on Facebook that everyone else is. So if you can start to understand the actual thought process behind it, the psychological triggers in this, then you can start replicating it in your own style. So again, some of the stuff I put out, you know, sort of start thinking about, like, what's actually, I do this a lot with guys that I really look up to. Like, why have they put that? Like, what is that part of it that they're doing? What are they trying to get from, well, not trying to get, it's the wrong word. What reaction are they trying to get from it? And I think that there's a lot of guys I follow on Facebook, and again, if you want to shout me, I'll tell you, Glenn is phenomenal. There's a lot of other guys on there that I think are doing some really good stuff, and these are proper, like, guys that are doing 100k a month, by the way. So
nice.
You know, you can learn something from these guys. Yeah, exactly. Facebook. That's it. Don't have anything else.
I like it. Nice, relaxed approach.
But you don't need the rest of that shit. You don't.
It's lucky we don't build websites, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. That's, I know someone who does. Listen, let me be clear quickly, right? Websites are great. They do matter and they do count. But don't think you're ever going to get clients from them. So I put a video out, a recording out yesterday about how to get media. And it's actually quite easy to do. It's a lot easier than people think. And I know, because not only have I done it, I've interviewed like 3 or 4 journalists to find out their opinion on this, because I know them. And the problem is, people believe when you go and get media that you're going to get all these floods of clients. Unfortunately, you're probably not. Okay, so it's the same with a website. Like, you can drive traffic to a website, and you can get inquiries. Cool. But what you need to do is, if you don't understand like what's actually going on between when they email you and then they never turn up and they never disappear, or they do disappear, or you want to charge more than everyone else because a lot of people will buy on price. So if you're happy to sell on price, just have a website. You don't need to know any of this shit. But if you're not happy to sell on price, you do need to understand it. So websites, I've got a website for the wide stuff. I have it there. But what I'm not doing is sitting there, if I've got no money, going, I need to sort my website out, or I need to figure out what my program is. No, you don't. You need to learn how to sell this stuff. Like, that's the problem, not all that rest of that shit.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. You just mentioned how to get in the media. I'm not going to ask you to explain that now because we've been on for a while, but is that video up on YouTube?
Go on.
Is that video on YouTube? Can that be found? Because I'm sure quite a few people would quite like to see that.
Found because it's unlisted. It can be found if you hit me up on Facebook and ask for it, and I'll give it to you.
Like it. All right. I'm finished with questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or are you done?
No, I'm cool. No, I'm
great.
Appreciate you inviting me on here. I don't talk too long. I did get quite excited about this.
No, I like it. Well, thank you very much for taking all this time and sharing your methods and your ideas. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff, and hopefully lots of people will benefit from it.
Oh yeah, I hope so.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tim. See ya.
Cool. Cheers, mate.